Hey guys, Daniel here. This is another video. My next guest, he needs no introduction. It's the legendary Jeremy Adams. If you're a comic book fan, you've probably heard of him. Recently, he's been doing some amazing stuff, which I'll get into. Not only is he a comic book writer, he's also a screenwriter. He recently did Justice Society WWII, which you can go pick up now. But he also did the Mortal Kombat animated movie, Batman Soul of the Dragon, and he's worked on TV shows such as Supernatural. But mainly, he's been working on The Flash, which has been amazing. I believe issue 733 is the most recent one. Would I be correct in saying
I think that's right. 773.
773. Yeah, that's right. I always get them mixed up. But Jeremy has very kindly agreed to come on for an interview and let me annoy him. But Jeremy, thank you so much for coming on. How are you doing today?
Oh, thank you for having me. No, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. My kids are back in school, so now it's just all about playing video games with my brother and actually writing.
Yay, school. You said the two magic words to get me going. Oh, that's right. Yes, so many different questions I want to get into. So before we get into the Flash, let's touch on some basics. So how did you get into comic books? Were you a fan growing up, or?
My father actually but he drew some comics for DC when I was a little kid. So very early on, I remember seeing that he was an artist and he had drawn a couple of comic books. And then I come to find out later he had drawn some more in the 80s. Not very many, but that's where the love affair with comic books started. And, I've been collecting them since I was a little kid. And my room was plastered with all these comics and plastic bags and boards, and this seems like a logical conclusion to what I've been doing, but I love comics since very early on.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, speaking of comic books, so how did the Flash even come about? Because I believe this is your first ongoing comic book series.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I guess back to your other question, like I came out to Hollywood after college wanting to get into film and television, and broke into animation. And that's where I started, and then moved up to like live action with Supernatural. And then what had happened was Dan Didio, who was the former head of DC, right? He asked a bunch of animation writers, because DC animation has a really great reputation for doing some incredible work in the straight to DVD market for animated movies.
Yeah.
And so they asked for a list, and I was on that list, and they were going to do this thing called 5G, where they were going to launch the DC universe like 5 years in the future. And all of us were to pitch certain things. Well, I pitched a couple things, and I don't think it really went anywhere. And so what had happened was I was going to do a Black Racer backup for Superman Worlds at War.
Yeah.
Jamie Rich was I hadn't heard from him in a little bit. It's busy over there. Obviously, they've had some regime changes.
Yeah.
And then my friend Tim Sheridan, who's doing Teen Titans Academy, had mentioned me to Mike Cotton, who's the editor. And so Mike called me up and said, "Hey, would you want to do this future state Black Adam?" I was like, "Oh my gosh, yeah." Because it's been a dream of mine to do comics. It's on my bucket list. And that was my first comic that I'd ever done. And then immediately I did the Black Racer backup. But the Black Adam future state has kind of like, we haven't even finished that story, which has been great. And I got to co-create that Gold Beetle, which is one of my favorite characters ever.
Fantastic.
Because I love Blue Beetle, Ted Cord Blue Beetle, and Booster Gold. So then after that, Cotton said, "Hey, do you have any ideas for the Flash?" And I was like, "Yeah, Quantum Leap." I was like, "It'd be cool." He said, "We're talking about bringing back Wally." I said, "Great, this would be amazing. What if we did this, this, and this?" And he says, "Oh, I love it." So we started down that road of bringing back Wally and kind of taking him through this journey. And part of it was for me to get acclimated of how to do comic books and the Flash world, because Williamson had left off and he had really expanded the universe, and Jeff Johns had expanded. And so there's a huge history of Flash. And instead of just saying, "Oh, it was rebooted at some point," I kind of wanted to pull on some of that history and make it feel like all of it counted to a degree.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to just start over and ignore things. I kind of wanted to address things. And for me to really get into the meat of Wally and figure out how I wanted to go forward with him, it was an opportunity for me to kind of like find his voice. And then obviously that first arc ended in the annual with the kind of like what happened in the blink of an eye during Heroes in Crisis. So yeah, that's kind of how I started on the Flash.
Not bad going. And so what Wally West for me, he's always kind of been, he's been a character, but I think I grew up, knowing Barry Allen as Flash. I grew up with the Justice League stuff, and it was always just Barry Allen to me. So I've liked Wally West as a character, but I've never really been too pushed about him. Like I wouldn't, jump off hill. But after reading this run, I like him just as much as Barry now. So I just have to commend you on that. But absolutely. So did you know from the very start that you wanted to write for Wally West's Flash? Because for those who don't know, this run is actually Wally West.
Yeah, so that's kind of like, I knew that Joshua was going to take Barry Allen into his Infinite Frontier book, and so that was going to be a critical piece. So that kind of freed up the Flash book for me to bring Wally back as the main Flash. And if you've watched Justice League Unlimited, Wally was the Flash in that. Mark Waid had ushered it. I mean, he had been the Flash for like 20 years. And so what I liked about it was he's not dissimilar to me in terms of like really bad jokes, and he has 2 kids, and he's married, and work comes sporadically. So the only criticism I have, or the only thing that drives me crazy, is that these books only come out once a month. I wish everybody would buy it so that I could do 2 books a month, or I could have like a Flash family book, which would be super cool. Or because there's so many other speedsters, and there's a huge part of that world. But I kind of want to get my footing in to have Wally to have these adventures, and then hopefully they'll let me start bringing in other characters, and some other creators have kind of dibs on other characters right now and what they want to do. But I want to bring in a lot of them right now. But the more you bring in a 22-page book, the harder it becomes to tell a story. And I'm still learning. I haven't even done this for a year. So
who's that? No, just another Flash villain. Just put him in there. He's doing something. It all ties back later. You have one of those detective boards. You're like, it's all got to tie together somehow. I've gotten myself into a hole here. So absolutely. So, and the thing is, like, were you approached for it to be Wally West? Because I believe in continuity would kind of have to be Wally West, because I know Barry Allen is doing his own thing. And so do you think that if maybe Barry Allen and Wally West were swapped out, would you do kind of some of the same stories? Or do you think the fact that it's Wally instead of Barry kind of opens it up to a whole new realm of possibility?
Yeah, I would do different stories. I mean, because Barry to me is more of a scientist, and he's more of a, I wouldn't say hard nose, but he is more of what I call like a square jawed hero. And there might be bigger stakes for Barry. I don't know. Wally, it's the stories are specific because because he talks to villains, because he went through this emotionally traumatic time. This is kind of like his point of view, is that everybody could be redeemed. He's he's the Ted Lasso of like superheroes. And the fact that he has kids, and he has a wife, and responsibilities outside of superheroing, it kind of changes what stories you can tell. Whereas Barry, I'm not going to say he's limited. He has other stories he can tell. But for me, what I wanted to do with Wally, especially, is I wanted to explore the Flash in kind of a Doctor Who mentality of, and also his family. So, I'm excited that we're going to get more with his kids, who I think are pretty cool. And, I would love to build them up in a way that they could move on to a team book or something,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And so you just brought up there, what couldn't have put better myself, Wally West being the Ted Lasso of the Flash universe, which canonically makes Heatwave the Roy Kent when you think about it.
Totally.
That's canon now. But so we just brought up 773 most recent issues. Now, if only there was a place like your local comic book store where people could go pick this up. So I believe people can go pick that up from there. We need that bi-monthly book, everyone. How are we going to fit in all these Flash villains?
We need like 10,000 more people to buy this book, and then I think we would have a case to be like, let's do it bi-monthly.
So it's as easy as that on the channel. I'm sure just a million people immediately watch this, so we'll get that running in a week. Mike Cotton. But here we have the Flash. Everyone gonna pick this up. But this was actually a really amazing issue, and I know loads of people are blowing up about it on Twitter. And after reading that was one of the things that makes the okay. I have to go interview this Jeremy Adams guy. No money on. But this was a really cool issue, and so we get to see Heatwave in this issue. So was Heatwave a villain that Mike approached you about, or did you know that you wanted to write a comic with Heatwave?
No, I was ready to go on a globetrot, like a whole other thing. And he's like, hey, can we bring Heatwave into this thing? I said, sure. And he had a great idea. I have a good relationship with Mike. So
Yeah.
he was like, a chance to slow down and kind of like, oh, here we are with the family. Here we are with Wally needing a job. I like bringing in Mr. Terrific because he's a character that I'm enjoying, kind of like
Yes.
bringing in a little more. And I like the idea that he has these businesses everywhere and he's kind of entrepreneurial, and that now Wally, it's that it's that exploring those facets of the character. Like he's not just an engineer. He's not just like a guy that worked on cars. It's like he's an engineer. Like he's been around this stuff. He has a lot of innate knowledge about how things work because he's
Yeah.
been involved in time travel and all this stuff, and whatever thing they're doing, that they're, I forget Mr. Terrific's lab. So doing that, bring back Heatwave for a moment, because I believe Heatwave went to Suicide Squad,
Yes.
and just kind of have a conversation there. Because again, I think part of what I want to do with the Flash book is also figure out where we are in the DC universe, because there's
Yeah.
been how many reboots. It's like, where are we? Where are these characters? Where are the villains?
Yeah.
Are they good? Are they bad still? And those are still, like I said, there's so much story that I want to tell, and I need more time.
Exactly. I mean, let's just have you on this book forever. I have no problem with that. Yeah. But
Well, that would be great. I mean, they asked me. I mean, listen, I've said I'll stay on until they basically kick me off. Who knows? And then if the sales cratered, then they'd probably ask me to leave. But right now, I'm enjoying getting the chance to write. I've written up to next March's book. So
wow, good stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm excited, and we've got some really exciting stuff next year. So
Wow, looking forward to that. But so another part of 773 that I think is so amazing is how, spoiler alert, I guess, is it okay if I kind of talk?
you can talk
Yeah,
about
after everyone dies, it's so crazy. Grenades are going off. This changes the multi. No money messing around. So everyone, if you want to go in fresh faced, probably just skip a little bit. But so at the end, it kind of leads up to this big battle between Heatwave and Flash. But instead, it's this really powerful moment of, because we find out that Heatwave, basically his character has cancer because of the asbestos in his suit, and it's gotten to the point where, I mean, they can do more, but it's not looking good. So he kind of goes back to his villainous ways, and he doesn't see the point. And you get to see this like really nice monologue between Wally and Roy, which we can see here, where he's like, Heatwave's like, no, human life doesn't matter. And Wally West, they have this really like sincere conversation. So did you know from like the very start that you wanted to have a moment like this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the pieces that separates Wally from other people.
Yeah.
It's just going to. I think you'd rather not punch people. I think he also, because of the way that Wally has been characterized, a lot of bad things have happened to him. So my feeling is that he has taken all that like a real person and can empathize with these people when he's presented with like an emotional problem with like that. You know how it is as a person. It's like you don't really understand all those sappy romantic songs until you're in love. You don't understand every country broken up with. There's a certain amount of like empathy that he has, and so when he sees that moment, and it's like, this is not right. Like this, I mean, if it was just a random new villain, it might be a different like fight. But it's like, hey, I know this guy. He's supposed to be good. What is happening? And he wants to dig into that. And when he figures it out, he gives this message of hope. And that's definitely something that I continually write about more and more. I write about it even in Supernatural, my first, not Scooby Natural, but the first solo episode I did. There's Dean is like, has kind of the same conversation, like, no, it's the Terminator. Like, the future is what we make it. Like, you got to have hope. You can't be cynical. You have to be, that's what being a hero is. And I think it's, I know this sounds really gushy, but it's like, I think we need that more and more. We need
Definitely.
people like, hey, as much as we're on and we hear all these bad things that are happening, we still live in the best time. we have all the knowledge at our fingertips. You know, majority of people are being fed and clothed, I mean, comparatively to the history of the world. So anyways, he has a much more rosy optimistic outlook, and I think I probably do too, so it's easier for me to write that. And I'm really nervous about hurting Wally. Like, you know, he's the kick puppy. I don't want to kick him, you know. That's why I tell people, like, you got to buy this book, because if I get kicked off of it and they bring somebody else,
you don't know what could happen.
It's like a threat. It's like,
I'm the only one who can protect him. You don't understand. I'm doing this for his own good. You walk around with the gun.
Exactly.
At DC offices saying, I don't want to hurt anyone. This is all for Wally. He's been through enough.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you brought it up there, and I think, like, yeah, we're definitely living in a great age. Like a couple of centuries ago, you know, I'd probably die of constipation. So, you know, you bring it up there. Yeah, we're definitely doing better in terms of that. But I really like this little monologue about fire. You know, the fact that he sees fire as something beautiful. I'll read it out here. You know, there's a moment before it all catches fire where it all seems okay, and then a spark, and all you took for granted is gone. That was a really powerful line. So I just had to commend you on that. But yeah, so before we move on from it, people can pick this issue up from their local comic book store.
Do it.
It must have gotten to the point, because you've written so much where you don't know what's in each issue, so you don't want to spoil it. You're probably thinking, okay, is that the one where this event happens, or do you kind of have it all memorized?
I don't know. No, like, comic books are so weird. Like, they're so different, because they'll release like a 3 or 4 page preview, and then, you know, it's sad, because it's the same thing with like there's so many people that will just, you know, pirate it, and they don't understand that like hurts the industry so bad. And, you know, all over the place. But you know, as a writer and creator I'm so appreciative when people take the time out to buy them. And you basically have Comic Book Wednesday to, like, you know, the end of day. You better don't get online, because people will talk about it and post pictures and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, everyone make sure to go pick it up. I can't recommend it enough. You should definitely read more of Jeremy's runs. It's been amazing. And so the next issue, I believe, comes out sometime this month, September, as of time of recording.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that, because
Dr. Nightmare from the Solicits.
My 8-year-old daughter helped me with that.
Wow.
And so she came up with characters, and we broke it down together. And
I can't tell if that makes it more terrifying.
No, it's a sweet issue, because
I mean, Wally West is with his daughter, from what I've seen cover. Yeah,
and this is that's right. And so this is the issue right before we start a new kind of arc in the book. So it's going to be the calm before the storm in a lot of ways. I mean, it'll be exciting and whatever, but like then it's like, and then we're going to be off, because as you've seen in 773 and 772, there's something flying through the cosmos toward Earth. And we'll find out what that is after the next issue.
Yes, and I'm going to touch on that a little bit later. Okay, to spoil everything, you know. God damn, it's so hard to get these writers to reveal anything. I've been prying Tim Sheridan on Red X so much, and he's never hasn't even given me. Apparently, we were so close to getting it if he just turned his computer around, but. Oh, well, you know, it's just the life, you know. I need to give him a little grubby pause on all this information. But yeah, no, so The Flash, we get the next issue. Everyone should go pick that up in September. But yeah, so do you find yourself like constantly finding out more about comics? Like, okay, so, you know, story beat, because I'm sure you're familiar with all the writing techniques, but comics, like, people kind of tend to assume that, you know, they're just like a regular book, but they're not, because, you know, you can only do so much panels per page, so much dialogue, so much stuff like that. So are you still finding yourself constantly finding out new like tips and tricks?
Actually, Cotton just sent, I just did a thing where a lettering pass on a book, and I had to kind of like put where I thought the balloons would go. It was mostly as an exercise, and I was like, oh, this is miserable. And what's so great is that you begin to just respect so much more of what everybody else is doing, whether it's colorists or inkers or pencilers, or like, they are magicians. And when I first started, I really had no idea. And Cotton was really instrumental in like going like, oh, this is what we think a splash page should be. This is where the page turn is. You know, I get really nervous now because I know I'm going to get yelled at if I'm over 6 panels in a page. You know, like there's certain things, and like older comics, they had tons of panels in a page, and it depends on what you want to do. FYI, I mean, that's
go 9 Crid Dave Gibbons with it, or don't at all, or don't.
Right. So I'm still learning that. And then when you start having a relationship with an artist like Fernando Passarin is somebody I've done a bunch of stuff with. Yeah. And he kind of reads my mind in a lot of ways. And he brings so much of a better flavor. He'll send back the pencils and he'll be like, oh, I'm sorry, these aren't up to. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, these are so amazing. This is such magic. So yeah, I'm learning tons and I'm still learning. And I know if it's like animation or live action writing, there's just so much more to learn.
Yeah.
And as I learn more and more, then it becomes a lot easier, not easier, but it gets me more excited to try something new. Like we have issue coming out in November that I'm so excited about. And you've probably seen it in the solicits, but it's like Dr. Fate and the Flash.
Oh,
and
yes.
The comic back, and then the second one is So that's me going, oh man, I want to try this to see if it'll be fun and if it will work. And I've grown up loving comics, so this is a chance for me to kind of like do all the things I think, this is what I'd want to do, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And what I really like about your run is like DC are just putting out amazing books right now. Like I have far too much of their books. I literally have all of them on my pull list. And so between stuff like the Suicide Squad, like, you know, Robbie Thompson, who is a friend of the channel, he writes a comic. I'm 90% sure someone's going to die in that because Robbie's just born evil, and I'm 90% sure he's going to die like that. No, I'm only messing around. Robbie, don't sue me. No, I'm messing. But your comic, and I really like this because it seems like, you know, it's kind of like a love letter to comics. So you but it is of course filled with tension and these sincere moments. So are you kind of trying to take it in a more fun approach, but not to say that there won't be trouble along the way?
No. That's right. I mean, it's more of an adventure comic. Like if I was writing Suicide Squad, you know, people would die. You know, it would be
in Suicide Squad. Are you serious?
Yeah. So, you know, it's a different you have a different tone and a different way for each comic. And with Flash, for me, I was like, I like this zany adventure, excitement. And it's just going to be more fun. It's not going to be, not yet. I mean, I'm sure at some point I'll come up with more serious things, but that's not generally who I am. I want more excitement. It's definitely, it feels like a throwback comic to me. That I'm writing this stuff that I used to read when I was 10, where it was like, oh my gosh, exciting. Where it's not, there are character moments, but mostly it's like, oh wow, look at this big thing and look at this explosion, and oh my gosh, you know, Jay Garrick punched Hitler in the face, and you know, it's like,
I want to get into that as well.
Yeah. I mean, all that fun stuff to me, which is like, oh, this is cool. I get to play around the DC universe for now, and you know, I hope I can branch out and do other books too. But I don't right now. I don't necessarily want to leave the Flash yet.
Yeah. Let me stay. Like I said, you're walking into the DC. Like, I need to protect Wally. It all comes down to this, you know?
That's
exactly. Right. But yeah, no. So another thing I'm going to touch on, like, I bring up, all right, so the Flash has probably one of the best rogues gallery of all time. He has like just fantastic characters and like some really weird ones, but like Big Surfer, a big Sir, who's just a big surfer, who you have to introduce, by the way. If we don't get a Big Surfer, also the one villain you have to introduce, who, okay, I kind of have this statistically planned out. In everyone, all the writers I've interviewed who work under Mike Cotton, I bring up Condiment King. Are you aware of Condiment King? I think I might just slowly push them to the point where they'll do it for a laugh. So Mike Cotton will have 3 writers messaging him about Condiment King. So I was literally gonna plan this all out. So so when are we getting Condiment King in your book? And is, you know, like when we need Condiment King?
I don't know. I'll have to ask Cotton about it.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll let us slide, you know, because Condiment King, he's like you said, you want to take maybe soon in more serious tone. There's no one more serious than Condiment King.
Condiment King, of course.
You know, it's like, I like to think of his ketchup as a metaphor for human greed. When you really,
that's right. Oh wow, yeah, that blows my mind.
It's powerful stuff, you know, Shakespearean levels. I'm like, it's really hard not to make that correlation. But I bring up Condiment King way too much. It's gotten to the point. It's like I've done a lot of interviews and I brought him up in at least over like 70% of all my interviews. So yeah, this is basically just a Condiment King fan account. Let's just dedicate the rest of the interviews to him. No,
I knew it. I knew it.
It had to happen. But yeah, so Flash villains. So are you constantly picking out rogues that you're like, oh, that could be fun, or oh, I'd like to use that character soon enough, or
no.
No, not at all.
He has an amazing rogues gallery, and outside of Heatwave right now, I'm trying to push Flash. There's a lot of amazing Rogue stories out there, and there are a lot of amazing runs, whether it was Wade, Johns, or Williamson with the Rogues. And so I'm trying to define my run with some different things. And I'm trying to push the Flash, not push him, but like I kind of want him to go on some other adventures. Though I do have an idea for the Rogues, and I'm hoping that people will sign off on it, which I'm excited. That would be next year. But right now I have these other things I want to do with Wally and his
You can
family.
say it. This is a safe space. It'll never get out to anyone, you know.
No, not at all.
And
no, I mean that's the funny thing. So like at the end of the annual, I think you see it's like not only do you see the spear glaive in one of the photos, but you see Gold Beetle. I have plans for Gold Beetle. I have plans for Linda, Ira, and Jay, and yeah. So I gotta finish those, and then I don't get to do this in a vacuum. So I will occasionally be like, hey, let's do this, and I'll get Cotton going, no, and I'm like, come on, man, like don't be a Debbie Downer. Let me do this.
Come on, it'll be good. I promise. It'll be good. It'll be good.
Yeah. So and then because there are going to be event books, as comic companies do, I have to think about what ties into those. That's why I'm desperate to get it bi-monthly, because I'm like, man, I can't. It's hard enough for me to wait for my book once a month. Like I need to know, if they let me, I would write like one every week, because I just feel like there's so much story I want to tell with the Flash, because
and Condiment King, you seem to
of course.
I don't know what that's about. I mean, he's a given.
King and Condiment Kid, because
patented trademark on the YouTube channel. This happened here. Royalties come back to me. I gotta be on the mark with this.
Yeah. So I'm there's a lot of stuff I want to do.
Let us use Condiment King. Yeah. I'm on fire with the puns. Let us. Oh, I'm just amazed. We can end it here.
I just have to catch up, and then we can.
The dad joke master. We see some of that in the Wally West stuff. So I assume we're just gonna get more dad jokes. Is that?
Oh gosh, please. That's gonna be his life. I mean, the funny thing is, comic books back in the day, they would do dad jokes, but they wouldn't be dad jokes. That was high comedy. Now it's just like, that's dad jokes, but literally I can't help it around my kids. Like my kids are going to be so embarrassed, so it is fun, because it's like, oh, I can channel really bad puns and stupid dad jokes. And but yeah, I'm excited to see, like I said, big plans for Linda. I'm excited for the return of Gold Beetle. Yeah. Like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, like I said, you also introduced a new character. Let's touch on Gold Beetle. Now, so you touched on here that you're a huge fan of Ted Cord and Booster Gold. I got them mixed up there for a second. So, is this kind of like a love letter to those two characters for you?
Yeah, it is. And so in Future State Black Adam, we talk about it, and she's from a long line of like, from Booster's line and from Ted's line. Eventually they meet up, and she kind of gets both of the mantle, though I haven't really discussed too much of her her origin story. But
as a child, someone shot ketchup at her and she never
it's a Condiment King.
It all ties back together to him. He's the star of the multiverse. He's the handwriting of DC.
I have hinted at a story with Gold Beetle within every appearance of Gold Beetle. So she is my Doctor Who. She's my crazy, zany, everything will work out, just run headlong into adventure. And we hint at her having a working relationship with Wally in the future. And so there's a lot of that I hope to bring to the forefront. So we'll see.
Perfect. Can't wait for that. And so do you find yourself with this one? Because I think the thing about like Wally is that when you have a character who's, I mean, it's fair to say, like, you've seen some examples of just like Wally and Barry being OP. And like,
Yep.
if they wanted to, like, let's say they were real, they could just run past me and I'd be like, the boys splattered on the road, like stuff like that. So is it tough for you to kind of like write this character? And is it also kind of easier in a way because, you don't have to show like them getting on the train to go to a location. You can just be like, one
Right.
minute he's in Poland. Why?
Yeah.
Because he's in Poland. He's getting a burger or something there.
Yeah.
Yeah, is it kind of easier for you to write them, or does it kind of put an extra element on?
No,
Okay,
it's
well,
hard. I think it's hard because
yeah.
I'm of the viewpoint that Flash might be the most powerful character in the DC universe. Mainly because, if force equals mass times acceleration, if you can accelerate basically to an infinite speed in a way, then there's no telling, you could do a lot. And the only thing that I think is hard is like, if any of us was running at top speed and you had to turn and you had to, there's a certain element of like, because he can move so fast, I think he has to be careful, that he doesn't splatter somebody, that he doesn't just, rip up an entire seaboard because of his speed, and break glass wherever he goes. So he has to limit himself in certain ways. I think everybody has their opinion about how the power works in a way, but for me, it becomes it's harder. It's harder to sit there and go, yeah, this guy with the boomerang, is going to cause him trouble.
Don't disrespect Captain Boomerang or disrespect.
No, but I'm saying
that's
why as a writer, it's a great challenge because then you go, how can I make him a threat? So even you see that he gets taken by surprise because he's looking this way and he gets kicked from behind. Well, that's the only way Heat Wave was going to get him. And then you have fire, which is, you can't outrun heat. You can't. There's certain things you can't do. So it makes it more difficult. That's why I having him jump into bodies or what we're going to do next. I try to get him out of his element a little bit so that it's something a little interesting for the reader and for me as the writer.
Yeah, perfect. And like we all know, there's only one person that can stop him, and that's Condiment King, because he has the special sauce that just works conveniently for exactly super speeders.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I definitely don't have an 800-page script where this all comes into fruition.
Yeah.
I'm just coming up with all this on the whim. No, absolutely. And everyone knows getting hit in the head with a boomerang. It's easy enough to take that one.
If you don't think that after this, I'm going to go and like research Condiment King, you're crazy.
No, you have to. You have to. That's the only reason you're here, so I can pitch you Condiment King.
I knew it.
Yeah, I mean, writing on Flash, that's a bonus, but we're all here just to talk about Condiment King.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
It's the natural order of things.
This is sponsored by Heinz.
Like, now that you bring it up, actually, let's just take it now. God loves man condiments. It's just, it's a matter of fact, it's human nature. But yes, so another thing I want to touch on is that we see that maybe this is something we'll see come into fruition later, but there's basically just this big object floating through space doing damage. And so, is this something we'll see more of later? Because it's kind of something, that could leave a lot of room for story-wise. So is this something we'll see more of later?
Yeah. The next issue will be the last issue before we really explore what that is. And I'm excited because I just saw the issue yesterday, and it looks amazing. Fernando is back doing pencils for that issue, and it looks great.
Yeah, I don't think that's true. I think you'd have to show us for us to believe you.
Yeah. Oh, I'll tell you that. Oh no.
Oh, you're like so close. Also, who's Red X, by the way? Do you know who's Red X?
Yeah, I might, but I
Condiment King,
anything.
Is it? It's Condiment.
Old Man Withers, no.
The real Red X was the friends he made on the way. Aren't we all Red X?
No,
you rip off your mask, you're Red X, and I'm Jeremy Adams, and then you, the viewer, are me. You know that
Red X, and I'm sure you told Tim it's Condiment King. Like you.
How did you know that? Did you get an early access to our interview?
I figure out what's going on.
I said it was either Condiment King or Detective Chimp, and no in between.
What's weird about Red X is Tim hasn't even explored A through W, and those red alphabet numbers. I mean, alphabet are scarier than Red X.
Like Red C, red condiments. Yeah. He only deals in ketchup. That's the act of a madman. Mitchell Mayo has some order because he deals with all the relishes, but only ketchup. That's unforgivable.
I know, that's crazy.
And this is why you know, we don't see that side of DC, because it's just
That's right.
black. It's not even dark enough for Black Label. It's just
Yeah.
unprintable.
Yeah, it really is.
Sorry, you got
Really
my
is.
heart up there a minute talking
I
about
know.
Conor McKing.
Sorry.
I get a bit giddy around Conor McKing. I'm sure someone may know it. But so this is another issue I want to touch on. This is Flash
Yep.
770, and we get to see everyone's favorite Flash, Jay Garrick. And now this, I believe, is set somewhere in the 40s during World War II.
Yeah, during World War II. And actually Cotton had said, hey, can we set it between, there was I want to say there was like a Grant Morrison book or something, and there was like a paragraph that said, oh yeah, what happened to the Ray and Jay during during their run in and blah blah blah. And it was like that small, and he's like, let's do a story there. And I'm like, okay. So so that's what it is. It's during that. And to me, I had just finished the JSA movie with Megan, and to me, when I was doing all the research for JSA, there's nothing more JSA than the Spear of Destiny. There's always this Indiana Jones vibe, and it was a great way to kind of like, because the Ray was a character that wasn't owned by DC originally.
Really? Who was
that
the same company that owned Shazam? Was it CC Beckett?
I don't remember if that's the case. So I don't know. I actually don't know if they've done a book where the Ray is running around in World War II with the JSA, but this was a great opportunity to kind of juxtapose the two characters and give Jay kind of a sort of like, I mean, I kind of think of my grandfather during that time, and he had more faith perspective, and Ray was much more ambivalent to that sort of thing. And then you got to bring in Hitler. You got to give somebody a chance. I think
is this canonically the first comic where Hitler gained superpowers from a magic stick?
Probably. So, yeah, speaking of Hitler, actually, that was there was a big fight about
I knew it. I knew there had to be pushback. I knew they didn't just let you put in Hitler with a magic stick in the book. Tell us about that.
I mean, it was there was a big argument, and I really, I'm the new guy. I'm not going to push too far, but I really was like, come on, it'll be really,
come on, giddy.
If you look at the JSA books, they were always fighting Hitler and the Emperor of Japan and like all this stuff. But I know we live in a different age, but I'm like, is there ever a problem with punching Hitler in the face? I don't think so.
Yeah.
And so, I think people were like, oh, Wally's going to punch him in the face, but I really didn't want to give that opportunity to Wally, I wanted, yeah. So it was, but there was big pushback on that. And so they finally let me do it, because also, by the way, the Nazi symbol, these are things I didn't know. Like, you won't see that in a lot of comic books ever, even if it's World War II. We had the same problem in the JSA movie. It's illegal in certain countries to even show that. So if you want your movie or book to be sold into Germany, you can't have those sorts of things, which is, strange to me. But at the same time, I'm glad they let me put Hitler in, and Parsifal and some characters that have never been really shown. Parsifal, I don't even think they've ever shown his face in the old comics. So it was fun to be able to put some of that stuff in.
So you won't give us,
as a fan, that's one of the fun things about writing comics, is like, there's all these things that I, as a fan, have thought about. And so I'm trying not to overwhelm Cotton with me trying to just do everything that I like. If you got to write a comic for DC, it would just be
Conor. Did I mention
Conor should show up? Yeah, exactly. That's basically how I am.
Yeah, I can't believe you say no to Conor King. We were like, yeah, screw it, let's put Hitler in the book. Come on, Jeremy.
No to Conor King.
Oh, so it's you heard it here first. Bleeding cool. Conor King potentially.
I didn't say no. I said I'm gonna have to look into this, Conor.
It's fine. It's legal. Just do it. Come on. Don't even question it. Just do it. Come on. Just do it. Don't stop questioning it. Just stop questioning it. No,
just go with it. It goes. Yeah.
It just go with it. Trust me, it's a good decision. I did the business side of it. Nothing can go wrong. It's practically just put them on the cover. Boom. We'll get that bi-monthly series going. But no. So another thing I want to touch on in this book, I really like how you actually, Jay Garrick and Wally West, you can see that they have kind of two different dialects. Like the second they switched over, you see that more, because Jay Garrick is like, Google it. and Ray's like, what you smoking? Like, what you mean Google it? Like, you're just laughing. And
Totally.
it's stuff like that. And so what I really like in this is how we see Jay depicted as somewhat religious, which I mean probably most people back before he probably would be. And like that's really interesting because you do kind of open up that dialect in a world with people like Superman, you know, what's kind of considered God or how, and then you see that he has the mindset that he was given these powers by God.
Right.
And so was it fun for you to kind of deal with that dynamic of religion and put this in like if comic and still keeping it fresh?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm a pretty religious guy, so
Yeah.
it's for me, it's like, again, I don't want to just read everybody having the same point of view. Um, I like those big questions, and I like characters asking those big questions. I think about there was a great, a famous run of Green Arrow and Green Lantern, and it was all about, differing politics and different ideas. Yes. So I think, for me, I'm never going to be super heavy-handed. I just wanted to tell a nice little story about, faith and you're dealing with something that's like, the spear that the spear of destiny that stabbed Jesus in the side. I mean, it's the same thing Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's like,
Yeah.
well, or the great line in Dusk Till Dawn, where George Clooney's like, this may be an older movie for you, but George Clooney's like, yeah, I
What's a
didn't believe in
George
vampires.
Clooney?
Yeah, I didn't
No,
believe in
that's
vampires either, but here we are. This is it changes your perspective. So it's fun for me to be able to kind of like write about that, especially because DC has certain pockets inside their mythology that are, they have Azrael, who's an angel, and the Spectre, who's the spirit of vengeance, and they have a bunch of magic stuff, and then they also have the martial art contingent, which I haven't even started on because I love that stuff so much. But they have these little pockets, so it also feels like I'm getting closer to starting to tie in more of those elements of other parts of the DC comics that I've always wanted to be able to play with. So
definitely, Dan. I think you did a brilliant job there. So everyone make sure to go pick up those issues. Yeah, but Flash, a few characters you've been including, which I've been loving, Mr. Terrific
yeah,
and Green Arrow, I believe, has also been in a few issues. Yeah, and so Mr. Terrific is also in the Strange Adventures book, which everyone should go pick up. So did the Mike approach you with that and say, do you want to use these characters, or did you say, can I use Mr. Terrific? Or
no, we originally wanted to use a different character, and then it was like, okay, we can't use that character, so what can we use? Who can we use? And so it was like, here's a list, I think, and it was like, oh, okay, we can use Mr. Terrific, and I was like, oh, I'm all in, mainly because he always felt like I couldn't really understand him as a character a little bit.
yeah,
And so that's always enticing to me, because then it means I can start seeing, oh, he's this genius guy. But it's not just that he's a genius guy, like being able to add little hints of other things. Like he has labs everywhere, and not only does he have labs, he owns franchises. Like if he's super smart, he's not going to be content. He's diversified, and so it's been really fun, because I think I've always saw him as a character that didn't have that many emotions.
yeah.
Well, I don't believe that human exists. So having drive up in like a sports car and kind of like, give
Yeah.
Wally the business, like, listen, bud, like you are way better than this. Like you got to come with me. I'm going to give you an opportunity. Don't say no. I'm super smart, and I follow a lot, he's not unlike Gary Vee or like Tim Robbins or Tony Robbins or something. I feel like Mr. Terrific could be an inspirational speaker.
So he'd be on Instagram saying, wake up at 5 a.m.,
That's right.
Don't eat breakfast. It's for the week.
Yeah.
Go out, run for 4 hours, come back in,
Right.
grind all day, stuff like that.
Yeah. And but then you see his operation. It's like, it's somewhat altruistic. It's like, I'm doing all this stuff. And by the way, you get free lunch. And, it's like how he's got it figured out. And he's figured out how to work it great, because he's that smart. So I just it's been fun to mess with him and play. I would love to write. And then I went and read that book, The Terrifics, which is terrific.
Yeah.
And then Adam Strange. I think Tom King did an incredible job of
with Doc, Mitch Clayton, and like a few other
yeah.
other people.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's so good. And so
Yeah.
now it went from, oh, I'm using this character to I'm falling in love with this character. Like now I want to use them all the time. And again, it goes back to the same problem where I'm like, there's not enough time. I want to use all these characters, and it's hard because I'm already going like, oh no, we're months away from what I want to do with Gold Beetle. And I'm like, no, I need her now. Like, I need Bart to show up. I need, but Bart's on another book and there's other characters being used. Wallace is at Teen Titans Academy and,
Yeah, exactly.
So, but it's fun when I can do something like have a moment with Roy, in the annual and so.
Yeah, and so you brought up that I stopped listening after you said free lunch normally restaurant. But yeah, no, that's fair. I have to, you brought it on yourself by just saying the word lunch. But it'd be a shame if someone was to, poison, all the relish in the free lunch, hall.
Dun, dun. He would actually relish poison.
He would relish in it, we have to stop currying on with this, Joe. Currying on.
I know.
We're on fire. Yeah, no, but Conor McKing poisons it all. Boom. He just takes them out that easy because you see, he's a genius. He he Ocean's 11.
He's obviously a genius because he's used condiments as his way to fight.
How did we never think of it?
You know what the thing is, though? I actually think the Condiment King is in the purview of the Bat family, so that's a separate department. I don't think they would ever let me use Condiment King.
Come on. Yeah, I know. I've gotten that from a lot.
They're super separate. They're like, you may be thwarted by editorial standards.
Nah, won't happen. I get by on my looks and my charisma. When it comes to Condiment King, nothing stopping me. I'm getting that Condiment King. I don't care how many editor doors I have to break down. I'll break it.
It's actually his name. He's the Condominium King. Condiment is short. He really just involved. He's all about
Latin
zoning and creating condominiums. You've misinterpreted the character.
No. That's impossible. You don't get to say it. I have a shrine of Condiment King. I can't turn my camera. It's just there.
Yeah, and it's just like one bottle of ketchup.
I bought it on eBay for €200. Apparently he used it himself. And it doesn't. I'll just take the word, and you can feel the energy coming off it.
What do you love about Condiment King? Well, we're going to run out of time. So
speaking of Condiment King, you brought it up. No, what is there not to love? I think he just always caught my attention just because he shoots ketchup. What's not to love about that? So
what's not to love?
Yeah, so have I sold it? Mike Cotton, if you're watching this, call me. I think your email's broken up. You haven't got my 800-page Condiment King script. It's the DC offices. Yeah. It's just so me. I think it's just the DC offices because it's a gold mine on their hand. I'm gonna turn it into a
Wait, this was created by Bruce Timm?
No, Relish Ravager. Oh yeah, it was created in Batman the Animated Series.
Oh my goodness! So Bruce and I did Batman Soul of the Dragon. Oh wow, that is hilarious. Bruce,
I just let him know that there's someone out there that every night I look up the stars.
Unfortunately, because it was done in Batman animated series, I don't know. There's rights issues.
No. All right, redo it. Relish Ravager. That's my creator-owned comic book series, but I'll let you have it.
Said it. I can't do it. Yeah,
I'll let you have
it. Go to your Substack. Go to Daniel's Substack. Subscribe his YouTube channel. He's going to give you Relish Ravager every week.
Every week. The ideas are endless. Seriously, what can you not do? Okay, I don't know how we got so far off track, but another thing I want to touch on is Justice Society World War II, which is a severe lack of Condiment King, but such a good film. I'll let it slide. And so, how did that come about? Because I believe you co-wrote that, correct?
Yeah, I co-wrote that. Jim Krieg, who is my mentor and oftentimes collaborator, he had reached out to me about the book, and he suggested I co-write it with somebody and asked. And so Martin is somebody that I work with at Supernatural. I had hired her at one point to do a couple episodes, I think, of DC Superhero Girls, and she's a great writer, great friend, and so she came in and knocked it out of the park. So we worked together and just wrote this thing for Jim and Butch, who Butch is the executive in animation. It's a little different. Like you think the director is like the director, and they are the director. They direct the storyboard, but the executive producer is really the kind of like overall creative force. And so Butch Lukic is the executive producer of that kind of new wave of DC animated movies, and he's hysterical. And so we had a great opportunity to do this World War II thing that is full of heart. It's beautiful. It's action packed. I mean, it's a thrill. So
sorry, that's the same as the Long Halloween. People can get that on Blu-ray, I believe.
Yeah,
everyone got Blu-ray and DVD.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
okay, everyone
correct.
go pick that up. Go pick up Justice Society WWII. You can get that on Blu-ray, etc., etc. And but yeah, so you also got to write like a few more animated things. Before we get into that, Supernatural, which is a show you worked on. I've interviewed a couple of people who've actually worked on Supernatural. Who've also done comics. You, Adam Glass, and Robbie Thompson, all three
Yeah,
legends who've worked in Supernatural. Three
big
there.
fans of those.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, and like I only just started watching it recently, but I believe your episode, didn't you do the Scooby Doo and crossover
Yeah.
one? That was the first episode I ever watched. I was like, it was a couple years ago because I was saying goodnight to my dad and he was watching it, and I was just watching it with him because I just saw Scooby Doo, and I didn't understand any of it, but I thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
Because before that, I couldn't watch Supernatural because my dad was watching it once, and I saw this woman come out. And she was like, long hair, blacked out eyes, and I was like, that's enough for me. I'm not doing this. But then I loved that episode, and I only started watching it recently. I just finished season 2 as of today of
Oh,
recording.
cool. Yeah.
Binging it
Oh,
all.
it's so good. It's so good. When I was a big fan of the show when it first aired.
Oh yeah.
And so to be able to write on something because it was on for so long, to be able to write on it is a big thrill. To be a fan of something. The story editor that I wrote under, his name's Andrew. Andrew and I have been friends for years and years and years, and I knew him when he got the job there in the 4th season. And Supernatural is just one of those amazing shows. Two brothers. Muscle car is like, that is up my alley. And so I was doing animation and they were looking for some animation ideas, and I kept telling them they need to do a crossover with Supernatural, and they kept telling me I was an idiot. And and then Jim, what happened, Andrew got to be the showrunner, and Jim had said, well, we should, if they're not going to do it here, maybe they'll do it as a live action one.
Oh, wow.
Like a cartoon live action one. So I called up Andrew, and within a half an hour, everybody had signed off on it. And the tricky thing was we had to write the script like a year in advance, and
Wow.
Because animation takes so long. And then we got to go up and for some of the live action stuff to be there, which was really exciting because that was my first. I had been a director's assistant in a live action movie, but this was like being on set and meeting everybody, and everybody was so enthusiastic about the script and the episode. And then it came out and they premiered it at where they have the Oscars at the Kodak Theater here.
Wow. Oh yes, I was there once. Yeah.
Thousands of people screaming, and Jim and I are looking at each other like, well, it's not going to get better than this, And then Andrew asked me to come on as a writer on the last season. And I wrote a couple episodes there. And I was so excited. I had like 50 ideas, that were probably too crazy for the show, but they let me write 2 episodes.
Someone's getting attacked by ketchup all over this one city.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely right. You're totally right. So yeah, it was so exciting. It's such a different thing because in animation you write something and then like you got to wait 2 years before anybody sees it. Like next year, I have a couple movies come out that I wrote like a year and a half ago,
Wow.
And so even to this year, I had like 4 movies come out and a TV series, but I had done them like years ago,
Yeah.
and I haven't even really, besides comics, I haven't worked this year. So it's like it's a weird industry sometimes. So live action is kind of a little more immediate. So you get to go up there, and then like a couple months later, that episode will come out. Which is,
yes. And so is one of your projects Conan the Barbarian? Do you know Conan the Barbarian? You thought I was going to say Conan McKing. I didn't say it. I had some withdrawal,
I know everything about Conan. I'm actually, yesterday I was listening, literally. I've been listening to the Robert E. Howard, like the Great Conan Omnibus, and I was listening to.
I just thought it's such an obscure name, and I'm actually this is
no.
Brilliant.
No, so I'm listening while I'm doing. I'm walking in the morning, and who rides by me, but Conan himself, the Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger.
When was this? Yeah, he just rode past you.
This is like 2 days ago. Oh yeah, I see him every once in a while where I live, and I'm always like, oh man, I want to screen out something to him, But I was like, oh, this is so weird. I'm reading Conan, and Conan just rode by me. It's pretty funny.
Scream cocainium. Remember he said that in one of his films, and I keep on saying that all the time. It's the funniest thing I've ever heard. But yeah, living in LA, you must just see celebrities. I went on holiday once in LA. Pretty sure I saw like 2 celebrities. I didn't even notice. There's just so much of them around. LA's like this, and also I'm too pale to be in LA. I hate sunscreen and I hate the sun because I just hate sunscreen so much. But then also I hate getting sunburned. So I was walking back. I'm like,
I hate it too.
I don't.
So,
Yeah,
I like to be in a cave. I like to not have the sun, but here we are. This
You're
is
like,
where it happens.
I don't need sunscreen a day later on. I'm like, my hands are so sore. You know? I was in the pool saying that. So that everyone knows sun can't get in through the pool water. I was very wrong. I was very wrong. Okay. I was like,
very.
Yeah, good stuff. I stand by it though. I'd do it again, It's worth it. A small price to pay. But yeah, so another thing I want to try is Batman Soul of the Dragon, which you co-wrote, which I mean, I know that there's definitely a Blu-ray for that, which everyone should go pick up. But what was that like? And so I'd imagine that there's quite a difference between writing animation and comic books.
Yeah, it's not as much of a difference between that and live action. So yeah, I wrote Batman Soul of the Dragon, and it was directed by Sam Liu and produced by Bruce Timm, which is obviously a legend in the field. And so Jim Krieg was a producer on that. So Jim, me, and Bruce kind of wrote the story. It is everything I want in a movie. I am
Batman.
Yeah, I am a kind of a nerd when it comes to DC Comics martial arts stuff, to the point that we'd go into meetings and Jim would be like, don't talk about martial arts in this meeting. And I'd immediately start talking about martial arts in this meeting. And so we got to kind of do this Elseworlds tale with Shiva and Bronze Tiger and Richard Dragon. And what was so exciting about it was like the voice acting too. It's like Kelly Hu, and then you have Mark Dacascos, who I'm a huge fan of, and Michael Jai White, who is amazing.
Brilliant.
And David did the voice of Batman, and he's amazing as well. But those other three are like martial artists, like legit martial artists. So doing something that kind of takes place in the 70s, that's kind of this exploitation, fun romp where Bruce Wayne is just becoming Batman, it's just so dang good. It's everything I love in a movie. And it was funny because a lot of people were just like, "Oh, Bruce Wayne, it's not bad. Batman's not in it." It's like, no, he's in it. Bruce Wayne's in it. This is a piece of his knowledge. And there's a ton of other movies, Batman movies, that are just Batman. This is just telling a different story. And man, it's one of my favorite things I've ever done.
Yeah, exactly. And so when it comes to fight scenes, you just say, oh, he does this really badass spinning kick in the air, catches him clean. And none of it makes sense when you think about it. But it's like, oh, he does 360 backflip in the air, spin kick around. Is that basically all your fight scene scripts?
Yeah, no, I do write very intricate fight scenes. Not everybody does. I have both gotten encouragement to do that, and I've also gotten criticism to do that. My job is really just to build a blueprint for the storyboard guys, who are geniuses in their own right. And so the way I look at it is, if you end up using the fight scene, great. That helps. If it helps you think up other ideas, great. You don't have to use anything I put, and they don't. I mean, they know that.
Yeah.
But it also helps me pad out the script so I know how long it's going to be. It helps us when we figure out how long the movie will be. And it also just gives inspiration, hopefully, for whoever's doing the boards, so that they can take it and do whatever they want. Sometimes my stuff's in there, sometimes it's not. But I write really intricate fight scenes for myself because I love that stuff.
Amazing. And so yeah, the last work of yours I want to touch on is the recent Mortal Kombat animated film that just came out. What can you tell us about that?
So it's a sequel to Mortal Kombat: Scorpion's Revenge that came out at the start of this pandemic. It's a direct sequel. I knew it at the time, so we were writing two. The first one really deals with Scorpion and kind of his journey, and then kind of acclimating the audience what Mortal Kombat is. The second one is really about exposing the audience to the deep mythology that exists in Mortal Kombat. And we have all our favorites. Joel McHale as Johnny Cage is unbelievable.
Brilliant actor for Community.
Oh, he's great. He's funny too. I mean, he makes whatever line I put better. He improvs great lines. So it is violent. I mean, unbelievably violent, unbelievably out there. It gets really crazy. It was we had to cut a lot. So, it's exciting though, because, anytime you deal with something that's in a fan base where there's really strong opinions, it's a catch-22. It's like you're grateful to get the work and to do something in that arena, but you also get everybody, you get
Comic
people.
book fans don't have strong opinions. What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah. I mean, that's the funny thing. It's like it doesn't matter what you do. People say don't ever touch a pen ever again. So it's a weird thing writing when you're exposed to everybody else.
For everyone that doesn't like it, there's a million more who do like it. So you don't have to worry about
Yeah,
it like
that's
that.
right.
Yeah,
And those
absolutely.
million more should buy the Flash.
Yeah, all of them, break those record sales. It's the only way we'll
Right.
get Condiment King. So either
That's right.
this one will work far better than your other whatever one. The
And
only way
if I sell 80,000 copies, Condiment King, boom, he's coming.
that's democracy. What can we say? It's as easy as that. All 1 billion of my subscribers go pick that up.
That's right.
But it's easy as that. Now we just wait for the sales to set in.
That's right. That's right.
So before we finish up, the last couple of questions I want to ask you. So do you notice improvement as a writer? Like, do you look back from your earlier work and say, "Oh, I can't believe I did this," or "I should have went with this idea," or "Oh, this I should have done this"? Or do you notice improvement as a writer?
Yeah, I do. Technical improvement. There's also like little tricks you make. There's also some things that I look back on and I go, gosh, I wish I was as zany as I was in those original scripts. But yeah, I mean, it's night and day generally because to learn, once you get the technical aspects down, and there was just crazy things that evidently I didn't learn in school that I probably should have learned, different grammar things that I'm like, oh, like I should have known that.
What's the difference between 2 and 2? What is
exactly. So it's gotten much better.
Absolutely. And so my second question for you is, if you could work on a dream comic book character besides Condiment King, who's that one character you'd like to work on? I could see it, the eyes. Yeah, could we all see Condiment King in his eyes there? You could see just a little glimpse of a ketchup bottle.
Yeah. No, I think everybody wants to do Batman. I grew up and I love Cassandra Cain, who's Batgirl. I mean, outside of Gold Beetle miniseries that I would love to do. I do actually have a dream project that is around. I guess his name's not Captain Marvel anymore, but Shazam is around that sphere of the universe in magic world. The magic aspects of DC. I have kind of a dream project I would love to do there.
Brilliant.
So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I think you'd be brilliant on any of those books. But my last and final question, because you've been so kind, took them so much time. Before we finish up, if anyone's looking to get into comic books, what advice would you have for them?
That's interesting. Gosh, I'm just so new at this. I don't know the right answer.
Work on Supernatural. That was Robbie Thompson's as well. Work on Supernatural.
Yeah. I will tell you that the thing that I've noticed now is that there's a lot of people that are being pulled into comics by making their own comics, and maybe you can't draw, like I can't draw worth a darn, but if you can get with an artist and start doing your own, create your own series that's online or that you sell with Kickstarter. I mean, how many Kickstarters are there of people just getting money or help making their own comic book? There's tons and tons and tons. And so I would say just start doing your own comic. I know somebody that is now in comics, but even before they got into comics, they were going to bankroll their own comic book. So if you want to get into comics, there's plenty of resources on how to write comic scripts, even though they're all completely different. But if you can write and draw, then I feel like you've got your meal ticket. But like, if you can't draw, then find an artist that you can work with and build those. I do feel like it's all about relationships. And I've seen more and more, obviously, people are getting pulled into the industry by their creative, interesting work they do in creator owned. And it's a great proof of concept because you can be like, look, this person does this.
Yeah.
I've done years of animation work and live action work. So there's a certain amount of like, oh, he's a writer, I think we can take a chance on him. But they took a chance on me still, So I'm glad they did, though.
Yeah, perfect. I don't think we could end on a better note. Jeremy, it's been such a pleasure chatting with you. Before we finish up, are you on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter? Do you have a website, anything like that?
Just go to Twitter, is Space
Space
Kicker.
Kicker?
Space Kicker, like outer space and kicker. And there, that has all my links to everything. So yeah, other than Mortal Kombat, that's out now, I have a show called Monkey Kid Lego. It's a Lego show that's out in Amazon Prime today. And the Flash. Buy those flashes. Buy them.
Come on. We all got the agreement. Condiment King. Condiment King.
Yeah, you got to buy them.
Everyone, you can go pick that up from your local comic book store. I would highly recommend it. It's been amazing. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Jeremy, I'll talk to you a little bit here off air. Before we finish up, you can follow me over on Twitter, as always, at SambookGizmo1. Please make sure to like and subscribe for that sweet, sweet Condiment King money. And as always, please make sure to donate to the National Deaf Children's Society. I've been in touch with them a little bit. You can go find out the link at they're on Twitter at NDCS, I believe. I'll link them down nonetheless, but definitely go make sure to check them up. And if you have the means, please make sure to donate. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you on the next video. Jeremy, it's been such a pleasure chatting with you. I'll talk to you a little bit here, but stay safe, go pick up Flash, and remember, long live Condiment King.